and welcome to Movie Joust. My name is Jesse Nussman, a film critic living here in Atlanta, Georgia, and with me on the other line, fellow Atlanta film critics Jason Evans and Josh Sewell. Guys, welcome to a hopefully humorous episode where we talk about a rarity these days, summer comedies.
Do we have to make jokes while we're talking about funny movies? I'm not sure I'm prepared.
I feel like
for
that's
that.
pretty standard, as we just make jokes.
Or at least bad jokes, which are easier than good jokes.
So the two movies we got to talk about this week are the big new release, which is the remake, sequel, sequel, whatever you want to call it. The relaunch of The Naked Gun, now starring Liam Neeson, and the highly anticipated Happy Gilmore 2, now available to stream on Netflix. Guys, which one do we want to break down first? I feel like we should talk about Naked Gun first. Jason, do you want to set us up for Naked Gun? And I think specifically I'm pointing to you because I think you can give us some context into what Naked Gun is, because some of our listeners might be on the younger side and may not have a relationship to the Naked Gun, as I did and mentioned last episode. So why don't you tell us what Naked Gun is, why it is significant to movie comedies, and then kind of set us up for what this new iteration is.
So before he does that, that is
ahead.
a really backhanded way of calling Jason old.
I want to set the record straight. I mean, I went and watched the first Naked Gun movie for like the first time the other night. But, you know, I felt that was important to mention because I mentioned on our last episode, I had never seen a Naked Gun movie. I was aware of what Naked Gun was, but to you guys' shock, had never seen any Naked Gun movies. So, Jason, for the youth out there, like me, what is Naked Gun?
So this is a franchise that started, I want to say, in the 1980s. It sort of comes out of the Airplane franchise that started even before that. David and Jerry Zucker, Jim Abrams are the guys who did that, and they are sort of the masters of this super lowbrow, joke every 30 seconds style of comedy where plot doesn't really matter that much. It's just about throwing as many jokes at you as you possibly can. These are always spoofs. The Airplane movies, of course, were spoofs on the disaster airplane movies of the 70s. The Naked Gun is a spoof on every detective show that's ever been made. And they had a TV show, a short-lived TV show that wasn't very successful. But they had a couple movies. Maybe they even had, I think they had 3 movies now that I think about it. The first of which was very successful and is one of the, one of these things that became a cultural touchstone. Everyone quoted it. Everyone talked about it. And it is something that has lasted and is very beloved. And so now we get, and boy, I didn't look to see. My bet is it's been 20 plus years. It's been 30 plus years since we got anything connected to Naked Gun.
I'm 30 and I'm pretty sure there hasn't been a Naked Gun movie in my lifetime.
So yeah, it looks like Naked Gun 3 came out in 1994.
Okay,
wow.
So
okay.
I was in the womb about to burst from my mother as Leslie Nielsen was gearing up for a final Naked Gun movie.
It was Leslie Nielsen. Now it's Liam Neeson. Don't get those two names confused. But yeah, so we get a brand new one now. Really, even though it has the same DNA as those films, and even though the characters, at least some of the characters carry the same name. We're supposed to be playing the sons of the characters from the original movies. The really reason this is a sequel is because it's the same pattern. It's the same kind of thing where you're getting nonstop jokes that I will charitably call dumb. I mean, there are a lot of jokes in this movie that they're not particularly clever, but they're really funny. And I think this is a movie that's going to be very, very popular among audiences because you kind of know what you're getting. If you know anything about The Naked Gun, you know what this is trying to be, and it actually succeeds at what it's trying to be, which is not easy to do in this genre.
No, not at all. Yeah, I think in my print review I called it brilliantly stupid, because like it's easy to be dumb, but it's hard to be dumb well.
Yeah, it's a type of movie that I feel like we used to get a lot even when I was younger, and like the Zucker brothers comedy or spoof comedy thing that was probably really popular for me growing up as a millennial was the scary movies. But this
Yeah,
idea of like the spoof movie is something that has weirdly, I think, kind of like gone away from movie culture in a way that's kind of odd to me. I don't know if you guys have any
yeah,
theories as to like why that happened beyond just sort of like mainstream comedies just like are not really a thing. But I I had a really fun time watching this, and it was like being in a warm bath of just sort of like, oh man, I forgot just how like fun being in a movie that like is just like the reason you're going is the jokes. And
yeah,
like a comedy that is not, that you could call this an action comedy in places, but like I was like lamenting to my girlfriend the other day about like, why is it every comedy now like has to also be an action movie, or like why does there have to be a
yeah,
gun in every comedy? And like this isn't like an action movie where people are doing little funny quips. It's not even, I think what kind of became the standard big studio comedy thing after in sort of the post Apatow era, which is like it's more of kind of like a drama, but there's funny interactions with people, but then at the end there's going to be like a serious moment where we all like hug and sort of learn the error of our ways and learn how to mature. This is not that. This is, I mean,
no,
it's I rewatched Anchorman a couple nights ago, and I think like that I I just had a feeling watching that of like, man, I miss when like a big mainstream comedy could just be like, we're just like pure stupid jokes.
Well,
And yes, some of
I was going to say
go ahead, Jason.
every single scene is not about driving the plot forward. Every scene is about let's set up 18 jokes in the next 4.5 minutes, and maybe 14 of them will land, but that's
Yes.
a huge batting average, and as a
yeah,
result, we are
And you half
laughing
wonder
nonstop.
like, yeah, and you half wonder when you're watching it like, okay, are some of those jokes not funny, or is it just sort of like they're throwing so many jokes at me? Like I'm excited to like
yeah,
rewatch this when it's on
No, this is a
streaming
good
because
thing. It
yeah,
no,
it's
no, no,
good to have
I
this
agree with
many.
you.
Yeah.
I agree with you of just sort of like it makes it fun for repeat viewings of just sort of like there even were a couple times Josh, you and I were sitting next to each other during the movie where like there would be a pause and we would have to think and be like, wait, that the punchline would come to you like five
yeah.
minutes later because you were laughing
You're like,
at the
oh, that
thing
was
that
a
happened
joke.
like two
Yeah,
minutes prior. Yes. And I miss that feeling in a movie theater of just like so
yes,
many jokes flying at you at one moment, and from anything from as silly as puns to like absurdist humor
yeah.
to at any kind of
Dude, the
gag
hot
you
the
can
chili dog,
imagine.
the chili
Oh my
dog,
god.
the entire chili dog scene is unbelievable. That is such good
There's at
stuff.
least
Yeah, it's
go ahead, Josh.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like, I think the proof I have, and it's anecdotal evidence, obviously, that it's been way too long since we've had just a pure comedy, is that, a lot of the, like, we're snobby film critics, so we get our reserved rows, but around us are just Joe Blow moviegoers who got to see it early. And a lot of them didn't really know how to take pure jokes. Like, there's a scene in the movie, I'm not, like, you can't spoil this movie, but, like, where,
This is why we're doing a combined
Liam Neeson's
episode,
character.
because it's going to be boring for
Right,
us to just be
exactly.
like, this joke happened, wasn't it funny? And then you
Yeah.
go into the movie knowing
It's
what it
funny, go
is.
Yeah.
see it, yeah. But,
Yeah.
like, there's a scene where, and, one of the brilliant things about this movie is just like Leslie Nielsen, Liam Neeson understands that the comedy from him comes from playing this like it's a Taken movie. Like,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
not winking at the camera. He's not mugging, even when he's dressed in ridiculous outfits. This is like, Dirty Harry for him. Like, and there's a scene where he's doing completely stupid stuff, like confessing to a crime, that a lady in front of us just goes, "Oh my god!" Like, how could he be so stupid? And I'm like, it's kind of the point, like, and so I feel like one of the drawbacks to the film, if there's going to be, is like we've had such a desert of just pure comedy in theaters for so long that I think people have forgotten what that looks like. And I
Yeah,
was looking
it'll be
back
interesting to see
on,
what the audience sort of reception to this is of, what, because I feel like part of the reason comedies like don't succeed really at the box office anymore, unless, it's a superhero talking across the fourth
Mhm.
wall, is like people are just sort of like, I can wait and watch that at home. Like the the
Yeah.
the discrepancy of like TV comedy as popular and like groundbreaking and subversive as it's ever been, but yet like there's kind of like a dearth of it at the movies. And yeah, there's just like five or six, even if all the jokes didn't hit for me, like there was one joke I will sort of minorly spoil that involved TiVo, and I was like, what year is this? But you know, but even still, like, this is a movie that even when all the jokes are not landing, there is still, at least like Josh can attest, like 3 or 4 moments in this movie that I like exploded laughing, and
Yeah.
that to me is kind of worth the price of admission, and makes me excited for how many other like little gags, like, I'll use one in the trailer, Liam Neeson like driving in the car doing his little interior monologue, and then just like a hand like comes in and hands him a coffee. There's like so a great reoccurring gag about like cops and they're being handed cups of coffee in this movie. But I don't know. Do you guys have any idea of what audiences will make of this?
I don't know, but one thing I want to say about this, and this sort of transitions us a little bit to Happy Gilmore 2. I think this movie was better. I think that we enjoyed it more. I think the entire audience enjoyed it more because we all saw it collectively together. And look, I
Yes.
know a ticket to the movies is expensive, and usually you're like, I want to go there and I want to see dinosaurs that that look real, and I want to be placed in a race car, or I want to see Tom Cruise defy death, or all those other kind of things. This is not a movie that looks particularly expensive. This is not a movie where you're going to go, wow, they put every penny of that budget up on screen and it's amazing to look at. But you know what it is? It's a movie you need to see with a bunch of other people, because some of the time when you're laughing and you hear other people laughing, your laughter's going to go up. And some of the time when you're like, I'm not sure, but then everybody else is laughing, you're going to be like, oh, wait, I did love that. Collectively viewing a comedy is an important part of enjoying that comedy. And again, I don't want to spoil what we're going to get to with Happy
Yeah.
Gilmore 2. There's no one else laughing with you when you see Happy Gilmore 2 at home. And I think Naked
Yeah.
Gun would suffer if you watched it at home versus watching it in a theater packed full of other folks who are having just as much fun as you are.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah. And looking at like the last truly successful comedy of the 2020s, since we're, halfway through it now, everything is either action comedy or rom-com, or I think the last pure comedy that we had, and I could be totally wrong, is that movie Joyride, which was great, but it tanked. And so it's just a bummer that or even going back to something like Knives Out, which is a pure comedy, you've got like the mystery aspect. And
Hmm.
we can blame COVID for this, obviously. Like, we've had plenty of incredible comedies over the last 5 years, but you've got Palm Springs, you've got No Hard Feelings, you've got a bunch of these movies, but none of them really lit up theatrically, which is frustrating because, yeah, it's like you guys said, we're used to that feeling of togetherness in a horror movie where we're like gasping at the kills or like cheering when the bad guy dies. But it feels like we've missed that collective feeling of everybody laughing so hard they can't breathe because of something they just saw
Well,
on the screen.
I will say, um, like Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine,
Mm-hmm.
Barbie. These are all movies that are Guardians of the Galaxy, the new Super. These are all movies that are very, very funny. But you're right; they
Yes.
are not. They are comedy and something else.
Yes.
Whereas
Yeah.
the rarity that we have with Naked Gun is it's comedy. That's it. There's
Yeah.
nothing else
There's
to it.
not a scene
It's
in
not a
Naked Gun
drama.
that's going to make you cry because of the emotion. Like Barbie's hilarious, but you're crying in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like Naked Gun out there now for 15-year-old boys to go see with their friends and marvel at how just dumb it is.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of curious how this movie is going to perform, and not in this sort of like hand wringing, concern trolling sort of way, but just like out of what you just mentioned, Josh, of I have so many fond memories of growing up, and there would always be one or two signature like R-rated comedies or like edgy PG-13 comedies that you would sneak into with your friends over the summer, and that culture kind of doesn't really exist anymore because you can just stream stuff. And the
Yep.
idea of like this is a movie that I think is like the closest we've gotten in a while to just sort of like it is a pure nonstop comedy that is just like as Jason said, like every 5 seconds is a gag, whether it's visual, verbal,
Yeah.
storytelling. But it is sort of built off the bones of a property from the 80s that like, it'll be interesting to see if there's any sort of nostalgia for that property, or if people are going to be like, because I've certainly talked to a few people my age who are like, what is the Naked Gun? Like, don't even know what it is. It just was not a comedy
Yeah.
they grew up with. No shots to the original Naked Gun, which, as I said, I rewatched this past weekend, and fun movie. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. And it's from a show business standpoint, like, man, Akiva Schaffer is due for a break. Like, everybody discovers his comedies well after the fact. Hot Rod is the kind of like dumb comedy that we're talking about. It's fantastic, but it tanked at the box office. People found it on DVD and streaming. Popstar is one of the greatest comedies of the 20th century. It's, in my review, I called it like millennial Spinal Tap. Like, it is amazing. It tanked. Even something like Chippendale Rescue Rangers, which is on Disney Plus, got, shoved to the side on a streaming service when it was funny enough to be in theaters. So the guy is just like due for a break because he is just like batting 1,000 when it comes to purely funny, smart comedies, and dude just can't catch a break.
And by the way, he's brilliant. He's one of the major forces behind
Yeah.
The Lonely Island from SNL, which made, I mean, some of the funniest stuff SNL's done over the past, 15 years or so. He was, it was him and Andy Samberg were the major guys that did that, and he directed most of those sketches, those digital shorts that they did. And he was on SNL. He was like a director and writer on SNL for like a decade or so. I mean, this guy's super talented. And yeah, I agree with you, Josh. It's time for mainstream audiences to discover him. I think that, I'm kind of the box office guy among us. I think that Naked Gun is going to do well because it's going to build really nice word of mouth. We walked out of that screening the other night, guys. Every single person there was smiling, had a good time.
Well, let's maybe something for us to do is kind of contrast, because I really like what you brought up, Jason, about how like the fun of all of us seeing Naked Gun together was experiencing a comedy with a crowd of people in a theater, and contrasting that with the experience of all of us on our own, on our couches by ourselves, watching Happy Gilmore 2, which, Josh, I don't know if you have much to, set us up for Happy Gilmore 2. It's the sequel to the beloved Adam Sandler golf comedy from the mid 90s. I don't know what much more there is to set up from there.
So yeah.
Yes.
It's almost 30 years old. And it's not like the original was like dense with mythology that you have to catch up. Like they catch you up with like a, I was gonna say, like a montage at the beginning, but without spoiling some of the things that we're going to talk about, which you kind of have to do because our issues with the movie we're going to have to spoil. So I guess I'll go ahead and do it. Is like, Happy Gilmore is like one of the best golfers of the 90s. There's a joke that it's like him and Tiger Woods are like the best. And just has this great life as a an excellent golfer. He and his wife, who he got together with in the first movie, played by Julie Bowen, they have like 5 kids together. And then in his last tournament on Mother's Day, accidentally kills his wife with a golf ball to the head. This is in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So that kind of lets you know what you're in for. And so the next 45 to 50 minutes of a 2-hour long Happy Gilmore film is Happy Gilmore killing his wife, having to be a single dad, and becoming a raging alcoholic to deal with the grief of losing the wife and mother of the family. So, like Jason was saying in a text earlier, just a laugh riot, and so the snobby
but Josh, really quick, the problem with the movie, one of the many problems with the movie, is that it's doing this really serious stuff,
yeah,
as its plot, but everyone is acting in a ridiculous comedy kind of fashion.
Yeah.
So he's a raging alcoholic, but ha ha ha, he has whiskey stored in his remote control and in his grandfather clock, and isn't that amusing?
Yeah, this golf club
God.
is a flask. This cucumber is a flask. This cell phone is a flask. Yeah, it's the weirdest tonal, like jarring tone I've seen in a long time. And look, from a snobby film critic perspective, this was fascinating to watch. Like, but for
it is a rich text. If you are writing the auteurist Adam Sandler bio, biography book, like, I have to imagine there's so much in this text about like Happy Gilmore's relationship to his family, and I don't want to say anything about Adam Sandler that's maybe not true, but like the fact that all of his kids are in this movie too, and there's all this stuff
and
about him
wife.
like battling out, I don't know, and like I don't know if there's stuff that that Adam Sandler has gone through that is somehow being like expressed through this movie, but it's very odd.
But yeah, it's I was joking with somebody. It's like, what if Happy Gilmore was the main character in like a bleak 70s John Cassavetes movie where he's dealing with marital issues and alcoholism? And again, to me, that sounds fascinating. But for the people firing up Netflix to watch him punch Bob Barker and eat Subway, they're going to be like, what the hell am I watching? And it's like in the back half of the film, it turns into what you think a Netflix Happy Gilmore sequel would be, which is lots of nods to the original, lots of terrible CGI and de-aging, and it's just like, a kid, like a 3-year-old, like shoving his toys together. Like, they don't really match. I was never bored. Like, I was watching the whole thing with like my mouth open in shock. So like, it's way too long, obviously. But like that first half reminds you, like, Adam Sandler can be a good actor, but why was it Happy Gilmore that he picked to bring this like real darkness to?
They're two
I think
very
it's terrible.
Weird. Yeah, I maybe am not as like hateful of it as you guys, but I think it brings up like a weird dichotomy with the way we experience comedy movies now, and just sort of like, Jason, again, I love that you brought up that we experience Naked Gun with a crowd of people all reacting and, freaking out about like all of these extended bits. And Happy Gilmore 2, I didn't detest it, but the vibe of it is just sort of like something that's just kind of on in the background, which I feel like is sort of the zone of a certain kind of Netflix comedy. And thinking of them together, that me being like, I wish that this had been a theatrical movie that maybe could have been like a little sharper and maybe could have like had more of those sort of laugh out loud moments, because like,
and way shorter.
There's like charming aspects to it. Like, I'm going to give Benny Safdie like a supporting actor nod for like, at least like kind of having fun in this movie. That man can just sort of like fold into any sort of space and work. But like, there is
Sure.
like there's just something weird to me about like the kind of passive kind of okayness of Happy Gilmore 2, which is just sort of like we got a bunch of celebrities to just do like cameos and bits in this movie, and
But
there
wait, by
being
the way,
something yeah
the golf stars, the golf guys who appear in this, to me, are putting in more the celebrity cameos. Travis Kelce, by the way, is incredible in this. I didn't see Travis Kelce in more comedies. He's great in this. I thought the other golf guys, even though they clearly cannot act and they're being given, little snippets here and there, I thought they were actually, somewhat watchable.
way more of
This-
them as important to the plot than I was expecting.
Yeah.
Like it isn't just a lot of
As
the pro
someone-
golfers. It isn't so much like in F1 when you're like, that must be an F1 driver because that person just like randomly waved and said something to Brad Pitt. It's like, no, they are like, I don't
Yeah,
follow
like,
golf, so I don't know who these people really
as-
are, but like they're part of the plot.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Is like, as someone who knows maybe 3 pro golfers, doing my like, it feels weird to say doing my research on a Happy Gilmore movie, but like, John Daly is a major character in this
Yes.
film. I didn't know who he was.
He's great.
Yeah,
He is
and-
great. Another person
Yeah.
like supporting actor nod. Let's do it. Let's just
But then you've got like, you've got people like, spoilers, Eminem pops up for a scene and he's funny. But then you have people like Bad Bunny, who is a major character in the film.
a major
And so I'm
character
like-
in the movie.
And I'm wondering, like, what is the ratio? What's the rationale? What's the formula where Adam Sandler's like, no, this person that 80% of the audience hasn't heard of gets 3 lines. This person who 80% of the audience has never heard of has a major role. It's just
Yeah.
fascinatingly bizarre to me.
It just watching these movies back to back really just sort of re-emphasized to me kind of like the importance of having that communal experience in watching a comedy
Yeah.
in the way that I feel like you can kind of like edit down and sharpen your movie to be funnier and funnier. There's something to be said about the fact that The Naked Gun is less than 90 minutes and it's like 80 minutes of like all the jokes that we can cram into each other
Yeah.
crammed in and just moving so fast compared to kind of how sort of loose and baggy the Happy Gilmore sequel is, which I
Mhm.
suppose makes it like more okay for watching just sort of on in the background when you're folding laundry on Netflix, but I think kind of diminishes the experience of watching the movie in a way.
Look, Happy Gilmore 2, I probably laughed out loud 4, maybe 5 times at the most. I laughed more in 3 minutes of Naked Gun than I did in the entirety of Happy Gilmore 2. I found the movie to be, the plot is insufferably stupid, but not in a way that services the comedy. Like, Naked Gun is a stupid plot, but it services the comedy. Happy Gilmore is a stupid
Mhm.
plot that just makes no sense and doesn't necessarily even take us to places that allow the comedy to thrive. It just feels lazy. It's like a lot of stuff on Netflix. Frankly, the Netflix TV series are great for the most part. The Netflix movies, almost every time you're like, this is someone who is being paid a lot of money to do something for Netflix, and they're not putting a lot of thought into it. The movie does not feel like Adam Sandler really sat down and tried to figure out an interesting place to take the story. It doesn't feel like they worked very hard on the jokes. Almost a third of the jokes, I'd say, maybe half, are rehashes of jokes from the original Happy Gilmore. Like, oh,
Which
hey,
they
remember
literally
this scene?
show. They show
Yeah.
the actual footage from the first film.
Yeah, hey, remember this scene? Let's do that same thing exactly again. Ha ha, isn't that funny? No, it's not. The movie's terrible. And
So
go ahead.
credit where it's due. Like, as we all know, Rotten Tomatoes is like the foundation of what it means to be correct in movie criticism, right? But like, it feels like everybody is sort of landing in a similar place. Critical scores based on Rotten Tomatoes, 61%. Audience score, 70%. That's about right. I'm like, does it work? No. Is it an interesting watch? Yes. And not everybody's great, but like the MVP of this movie is Christopher McDonald. Shooter McGavin comes back, and
Yeah.
feels like the only person who is really, aside from Adam Sandler in the first hour, who's genuinely acting, but in a movie that doesn't require that. Christopher McDonald seems to understand the kind of movie he's in. The hardest I laughed in the whole film is a throwaway gag of him reading The Shining in a loony bin. And I had to pause the movie because I laughed so hard, and we just never got that back. And I'm just like, no, give
He's
him
great.
more
I wish
stuff
we
to
had
do.
way more of that, of his energy
Yeah,
in the movie, or
yeah,
there's almost too little of him for as funny as he is. But yeah, it even I would even push back against what Jason said about the TV shows on Netflix. I think the whole Netflix experience, I think, is increasingly becoming, victim to this problem of it's just being made to be on in the background in people's homes, and kind of for people to half watch it.
100%.
And it's just making so the TV shows are baggier, the movies are baggier. It's all just becoming kind of endless waiting around, or there's a pleasantness to it, but in a way that feels very mellow and not rising above a
Well,
certain level. Does that kind of make
I
sense?
I don't want
Yeah.
us to get into a whole dissection of Netflix and the pluses and minuses of it. Mostly are minuses. Netflix has clearly embraced a quantity over quality model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They if you think, oh, can we take a little more time? Can we put a little more effort into this, make it a little bit better? Netflix is like, no, we don't care. We just need the product. Give us product, so we have something new to be in the top 10 every week. We got to have something new, and yeah, the quality doesn't matter. And frankly, Happy Gilmore 2 is a perfect emblematic example of
Yeah.
they didn't care about the quality.
Their model is, you can watch this while you're on your phone, or you can watch this while you're doing laundry, and from that metric, Happy Gilmore 2 is right up your alley. And you were talking about how shaggy a lot of these things are. I was thinking, if you took out all of the flashbacks to the first film, where they're not even making references to it, they're literally showing you the film. You take those out, this is like a 90-100-minute movie. And
I mean,
it's just weird.
At least it would have been. At least the pain would have gone away quicker.
So it sounds like Jason is on the far negative end. I'm kind of in the interesting oddity camp, where it's worth watching, but probably not for the reasons Adam Sandler wants you to watch it.
Yeah, I'm just sort of in the zone of it's just become indicative of what the Netflix problem is for me, of just sort of a movie that is designed for nothing but kind of a passive kind of flatness, if that makes sense. And I want more of the kind of exhilarating comedy hysteria that I got with Naked Gun, and which I really feel like you can only kind of get that in a communal environment like a theater. Well,
I agree.
guys, any final thoughts on these two summer
My final
comedies?
thought is, in just a few days, we're going to see a movie called Weapons that I'm terrified of already.
Sure to be a laugh riot.
Yeah. Yeah. Next week we're going to talk about Weapons. We'll also, in the coming weeks, we'll get to talk about Spike Lee and Denzel reuniting to remake one of Akira Kurosawa's masterpieces. And then, maybe we'll talk a little Freaky Friday. Maybe we'll talk Darren Aronofsky at a certain point. I have to ask you guys, all the fall festival announcements have been coming out. What's the fall festival movie you're most looking forward to? Which one are you like I will pay $1,000 to see this tonight?
I haven't even thought about that.
Wow.
I don't know.
No.
I've seen a million announcements. I haven't even really thought about it. There are a lot of really interesting movies coming out, though.
There really are. And I don't know, as much as we've bashed Netflix, what I'm really curious about is the new Noah Baumbach movie that has George Clooney and Adam Sandler. And like the last time Baumbach and Sandler got together, we got a really good movie with him and Ben Stiller and Dustin Hoffman. And with Happy Gilmore 2 becoming the most watched Netflix movie, and him and Clooney being in awards mode later in the fall, I'm wondering, could this be a weird sort of he's due sort of best supporting actor nomination for Sandler?
Hope so. What a lovely
you know what?
cap to put on our episode. Oh, and now Jason's gonna ruin it with us wishing goodwill on Adam Sandler for an Oscar. What is it, Jason? What
I was
are
just
you
gonna quickly
be like
say,
Rental Family?
No, I was going to very quickly say I'm really looking forward to After the Hunt, which is the new Luca Guadagnino film with Andrew Garfield and Julia Roberts. I don't know if that's the most anticipated one for me, but that's one that I heard about it being on the fall festival circuit, and I was like, yeah, that sounds really interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about Me Too and sexual assault with you guys when that one comes out.
Yeah.
But
academic
until then,
cancel
be sure
culture can't wait.
Yay! But until then, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram for the latest updates on our new episodes. But until then, we'll see you at the movies.